Welcome, weary hero! Come in and pull up a chair by the fireplace. Grab and enjoy a tankard or two of your favorite brew. Listen to your fellow Nephalem trade stories of their journeys throughout Sanctuary. Welcome, hero, to the Scythe and Shield.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Scythe and Shield Rebirthed. Today's guest, I like to say, is my brother from another mother, who I feel I really get down in the charts, and all around good guy, Dropaduski. How are you, Drop?
Good. Thank you for having me today. How are you doing?
I'm recovering from multiple things. As I stare off at the water. Why did I spend 2 nights in a row up to 4 o'clock playing Classic? And this whole coughing and sneezing thing. I'm not. I like the trifecta of like the typical college student being in the whole mid-30s thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But how are you? How are you?
I am overall good. I've been in a weird position lately as to too many games to play. You know, as you know and many others know, I had not played Diablo 3 in about a year, and decided to start this last season, and I actually really enjoyed the new mechanic. I thought that even though it was fairly simple, they did a good job of just giving you a little something else to do. So it was nice to kind of revisit that and also see a lot of people I hadn't seen in a while. And then we've also been, we've got Path of Exiles League that just came out, which has been surprisingly fun, honestly.
Really?
I've never been a tower defense guy. Like, I think the extent of my tower defense was like Plants vs. Zombies on my phone during bio breaks or something. It was like very, very, very minimal. And this has been a lot more surprisingly fun than I thought. Plus, I'm like insanely addicted to Classic too. So streaming wise, I've been a little bit all over the place, but luckily my community's been kind of following me around and having fun playing games. So it's been good. IRL wise, I don't know. It sounds like everybody's getting over. Like, I've had the worst allergy season I think I've ever had this year. I don't know what's going on with that, but
all that dry desert weather.
Oh my God! Well, we have pecans here. I mean, for those of you guys out there that don't know, I'm from New Mexico, and my hometown is actually like the #1 producer of pecans. Well, pecans have one of like the most hardcore pollens there are, so it's been like this crazy snot fest at my house, but I'm, thank God, yesterday or day before, it was the first day I like to get up around 6 a.m. and go out and like kind of watch the sun come up, or right after it comes up, and you could feel in the air that it's cooling down a little bit, right?
Oh, no, thank God,
thank God the summer is ending, So yeah, that's about it right now.
Yeah Pretty much the same here, echoing the same thoughts on the weather. Like God, like I am not a fan of summer. Like, as soon as it gets above 65 degrees, I'm like, find me a cave somewhere. Like, really.
Yeah.
But it's finally beginning to cool down. Like, when I leave for work in the morning, or I walk the dog at night, go outside, and it's like, even with the AC on in the house, it's still like 5 degrees cooler outside. Like, that's good. Like, that's where I want it to be. But other than that, for those playing the home game and listening to me, yes, like dry throat, coughing, taking one medication that's adversely affecting the feels. Yeah, whatever. I'm getting over it. Let's just say I'll not be patient here at BlizzCon, because I will have my fill of stuff prior. Maybe I won't even get the flu shot this year. Who knows? Maybe I'll risk it. Anyways, yeah. So not much more. Also, double echoing on Classic. Oh God, the grind is real. I think everyone forgot how real the grind was. I was watching P-Child yesterday on his stream, and he was saying like, yeah, man, this grind is brutal. Like he forgot, and a couple of other people said like they forgot. I'm like, But then you get into a group with 1 priest and 4 mages, and then you just AoE grind lib for like 2 hours. Then it all makes up for it.
You know, so on the note of classic, I think it's good to mention like you're in my guilds and we've got a lot of people, and I would say immediately the vibe has been
shameless plug, just so you know. Smoke
so
break.
different. Everybody's welcome to join, by the way. It's on Israel, but
PvE.
Everybody's been really embracing, at least in our guilds, that slow grind. Like, yeah, you may do a couple of mages, but it's not this. When I started hearing the like whispers of 10 mage, spam dungeoning, and it seems to me, even though I never experienced classic back in the day, this is actually my first experience with classic, but still, like, it feels like something that you need to experience with that slow pacing, and most of the people that I've encountered thus far are like really embracing that. It's so weird because I know that there was a lot of chatter and whispers about like, oh, will our current gaming landscape, will people embrace that kind of play style that's so old school, that's so and it seems like everybody has, right? I mean, it's still hype as hell. A couple of weeks out, we've gotten a couple of crazy quick clears, which, I mean, I wasn't surprised with at all. You've got people that have been doing nothing but private servers for years. I mean, they're going to they're going to be good at the content. That's just how that's going to go. So, but overall, I feel like it's been what Blizzard kind of needed. I really hope that something like this becomes the new norm for retail, right? I hope that they embrace some of these. Like, can you imagine if retail gets the expansion and it says at the end LFR, LFG gone, right? And it's like, oh, like, people, I think they could save WoW with this, right? Or they could go down alternate timelines or whatever. Not that WoW is dying per se, but retail isn't, a far cry from what WoW used to be. And I think they could really embrace the amount of positive feedback that we've gotten from this, and walk away with something that the whole community embraces, that's not 14 years old, right? New content, new storylines with the same fun, grindy feel.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people, in a weird way, I think people were, because they kind of give like not a stump speech on what vanilla was, but everyone says like vanilla was hard. Like, no, vanilla wasn't hard, we just didn't know. Raiding was difficult. No, it was getting people who knew their class and getting 40 of them on a certain day to learn the fights and actually put in the effort and the work. Vanilla took forever. Well, that's because there was so much to do. When you have a lot to do, you have to space your time out. A lot of people believe vanilla was a lot of things when it was really essentially just 2 things. It was a community-based game. If vanilla didn't have the community it had, it would have died out like the other games did. The community made it so strong. The community was probably bigger than the community is probably bigger than the game, so to speak, if you had to wager one versus the other. Especially back in BC when it hit that 6 mil point subscriber, and then it just skyrocketed to 12 before Wrath. And then the other thing was the game just allowed you to be who you wanted to be in a way. And I'm not talking about RP or whatever. It was like, no, I'm a mage. I'm gonna burn things with fire. I'm gonna kill it, or it's gonna kill me. This is the way I'm gonna build my character, and that's the way I want to do. There was enough elements in there to do whatever you wanted, and that's what vanilla was. Everyone wants to put all these things on it, like ruining the spirit of vanilla, or with add-ons. Like, fuck, like all the add-ons.
There were add-ons.
Like all the add-ons I am using right now, I used back in the day because I remembered all the names of them when I reflected back. The one that I'm using now compared to before is called Monkey Quest, and that's just for getting past the whole stupid 5 quest tracker limit. But I'm not using Questy or anything like that because Jesus Christ, Wowhead is good enough. 2 screen monitors, pro plays.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know this is Dabble Podcast, we're talking about classic, but I feel every Blizzard podcast is doing it this time, so stupid. Love from Jed. Anyways, so with that, let's move on to the important part of the show. That's you,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Drop.
So, do we just talk? Do you want me to talk about IRL and my startings and streams, or should we jump it? Is Diablo come after that?
Well, I'll let you know. I will guide you through the mystical magical lands of questions beyond in the first segment.
Hail Nephalem.
And here we are. So, first question. Where does your name come from?
So, Dropaduski comes from a hunter in World of Warcraft, as a matter of fact. So the first time I played WoW, my original gamer tag was Jebba, strangely, because my real name is Jeremiah. My friends call me Jebs, which is short for Jebediah. That's a long story. I love classic Mustangs, and when I was about 12, I ordered a magazine about Mustangs from somewhere in the deep south. I don't remember, Mississippi or something, and it didn't get sent to Jeremiah. It got sent to Jebediah. So my friends made that short to Jebs, and then I named my name Mage Jebba. And I had a friend that had a name called Blazedeal Bolsky on his WoW character, and I just thought that was the funniest thing. I mean, I don't know why it's got that thing, and I said Dropaduski one day when we were talking, and everybody laughed, so I just made it. And when I originally set out to be a streamer, I don't know, that's just the kind of guy I am. I think that kind of humor is really funny, fart jokes and other things, or just regular old farts. Like, it's harmless humor in my mind. It's not political, it's not it's just funny. I don't know, I've always laughed at farts. So Dropaduski was my original Twitch name because it was currently my World of Warcraft character, never expecting Twitch to go anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward 2 years and you've got, a couple thousand followers and people hanging out, and you're starting to think, okay, I'm going to do this for a living. How is this going to impact me being able to talk to company, but it's been okay so far.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been okay, right? Nobody have seemed to really care about it too much. So, and honestly, if I'd have tried to change it to something else, it just wouldn't have felt like me. I don't know. I think it's funny, and I've always thought it was a good pick. So I think if there's one thing when it comes to Twitch and success, you just got to be yourself, right? And if that's the kind of humor I'm into, it's got to be it, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's where it came from. It was based off of a friend that wanted to make a joke about smoking a bowl, and turned into a fart thing. I don't know. I wish there was a better origin story for it, but
Origin stories are the best stories, no matter what they are. So, how old are you, and what's your profession? Was your profession, work, study, etc., etc.?
How old am I? I'm sorry, I didn't catch all of that. What was it?
I'll blame it on the sickness. Disturbs not, yes.
I'm looking away from this.
Yeah. How old are you, and what's your profession, work, study?
So I'm just about to be 36. I went to college for business computer information systems, which is basically business and computer programming. Before I became a streamer, I did 7 years as first a full stack developer for 3 years, and then moved into the front end area, but I was also doing some full stack there as well, basically programming. I also dabbled with design, which translated into being, I've done pretty much all the main design for my stream. Many of my emotes, things like that kind of come from my web developer background. That's kind of where I did the professionals part of, I guess, portion of my life so far. And I liked it to a certain degree, but at the same time, I don't know, the cube life is hard. At least
Yeah.
I always felt like I'd come home and, I hate I've always kind of somebody, I can't remember who told me the saying, but it was like, if you're living for Friday, then you're not living at all. And
Yeah.
you know, that was kind of my mythos going into becoming a streamer, or at least deciding to take the plunge. But there's a lot of other factors involved in that decision too.
Yeah, yeah. I feel you on the whole cube life thing, because I'm a AutoCAD drafter, mainly 2Ds. Every once in a blue moon, I get to do some 3D stuff, and yeah, it can get to you. But then again, it's like you apply that whole gamer efficiency. It's like, so I got done 3 days worth of stuff in 2, so I don't really have to work on Friday, and I work at home on Friday, quote unquote. Yeah, I can make this work. So it is what it is. And then, you know, I was doing what I traditionally do, or what I traditionally call YouTube dumpster diving, and I'm like, I really like the way I wonder who did his stuff. So I did not know that you did a bulk of your own stuff as far as graphics and everything.
Yeah, visually on YouTube, everything I've done. There's just the actual cartoon face. I actually hired an artist for that, because digitally, I mean, I can draw fairly well. I drew him the sketch, but I don't know how to like, Illustrator was the one tool. I'm really good with Photoshop. Illustrator, I feel like, you know, I'm all thumbs in there. I don't know. It's such a
and like Illustrator is supposed to be the program, like, you gotta use them. It's like, oh, I can't stand it. And, yeah. So, moving along here, what was your first time seeing or playing Diablo, and was it due to a particular friend or family member?
So, honestly, speaking towards just a Diablo franchise, Diablo 2, so I didn't get into the PC gaming thing until way later. I was primarily a console player, as my family just couldn't afford to have a PC. Like, when we were growing up, I had some friends with PCs, but I typically had like my, you know, Nintendo, or at the time maybe Nintendo 64 or PlayStation. And a buddy of mine down the street was, you know, substantially older than us. It was like a best friend's brother kind of deal, and he got a copy of Diablo 2. And I remember us basically battling for hour slots, right? So each one of us would get an hour on the PC to work on our character, and then somebody would come in like, "You're fucking it's over, dude. Get out, you know, like, it's my turn." And we would just do this non-stop, right? I fell in love with Diablo back during Diablo 2. It was probably, you know, it still is to this day, probably one of my favorite games of all time. And I actually convinced my mom when I started college, like, hey, I'm really gonna need a PC to do homework. Like, there's no way to do this. And then I ended up doing all my homework in the lab, and that PC was for Diablo, right? I'm
sorry to interrupt, but I'm just thinking about this. Like, hey, Mom, please, I need a PC. Yeah, I need like a $600 laptop just so I can run Word. Please, Mom, please.
It worked though. She did get me the PC, and I played Diablo like crazy. You know, when the whispers of Diablo 3, because I mean, what was it, 12 years, or I can't remember the exact duration. I mean, of course, you know, we were praying and hoping forever. We finally got announced, and I remember us talking about it, me and a coworker, for years, right? Because I think it was exactly 3 years after announcement that it came out. And I played a lot, like, even during the quote-unquote bad days of the real money auction house. Like, I played all the time. I convinced myself that the next run was going to be the run that gave me the Echoing Fury, that was going to pay for the previous Echoing Fury that I had purchased for myself, because, you know, like, we're doing this. I'm going to make it big on the auction house, right? Of course, hindsight, the people that were selling, you know, gold and jewels were making tons of money on the real money auction house, and the people hunting legendaries back then were, you know, potatoes. But, you know, what it is, what it is. But it was so much fun at that time. But I remember hitting that point before Reaper, where I was kind of burnt, and I went and played some WoW, and I was playing League of Legends for a long time. A friend of mine got me into League of Legends, and that's actually the only game that my wife will not really let me play anymore, because she said
I
it just
wonder why.
so foul in real life.
uh,
And one night I had a particularly bad match, and I hadn't played Diablo in a long time. Like I played some when Reaper came out, but the AH was gone and there was no greater rifting or anything. So it was like,
Mhm.
well, and this had been probably like the very end of season 1. I wasn't actually active during season 1, but my friends were going to continue playing League, and I saw Diablo sitting there on the the home screen, and I was like, it's been a long time. And I got on, and I was just in it, right? Because I'm one of those that, like, especially at night, I like to turn the game soundtrack really loud, get the sound effects. I've got the lights off, like, so that night I remember just being in it. And I mean, that's one of Blizzard's like biggest positives, is like they really create an environment when it comes to music and tone and vibe where you're immersed, right? And from that point, I just couldn't put it down again. I slowly convinced all the people playing League to come back to Diablo. I found Quinn on Twitch, like looking up some sort of guide. He was actually the first stream I had ever seen, and then subsequently I saw Tony and Dat Mods and a couple of the other guys, and
yeah.
The lady said, "Hey, you should try that. You just watch people. Why don't you do it? You're always on anyways." And Diablo became the main game, right? That was all I played for probably about a 3-year stretch there. About 3 years, that's pretty much all I would play. So, and I loved it.
Yeah. The history of the Diablo franchise, it's like so much to it. Well, there's like so much like each individual game, let alone the whole franchise. There's like all the backstories and all the hearsay that you hear throughout the years. Like, it's like the development of the game is almost as interesting as the games themselves when you get down to it.
Oh yeah, I mean, just amazing.
Yeah. So, this question is one of those questions I always have in there because it's a generic question, but it kind of means a little bit more. It means a little bit more now, from now until when they actually announce Diablo 4. So this year, next year, 2024, whatever, whatever, Blizzard. But what's your biggest hope for the Diablo franchise as a whole, moving forward?
So there's a couple of things. Well, there's a lot of things that I think Diablo has positively going for it in its current state, right? If you compare it to other action RPGs, as many of you guys know now, I play a lot of Path of Exile. I think it's a very good game as well. But there's some distinctive differences in regards to pacing and mechanical control that Blizzard just does beautifully, right? The speed and the way with which you can control your character feels so good. So I'm hoping that they keep that feel. But I will say that Diablo 3 is so much less rated M for mature than Diablo 2 ever felt, right? Like, I remember last time I went to BlizzCon, when I was speaking with someone there, they were like, remember, Diablo is actually the only rated M game that Blizzard does these days, right? So with that concept, I really hope that with Diablo 4, it's gritty, it's dark, it's evil, it's violent. I mean, I still vividly remember as a kid when you're playing the Necromancer and just like creating a skeletal mage with like this just blood sprays all over the, you know what I mean? Like there was just these explosions, and I feel like a lot of that is lost. And I know that's a weird thing to want in a game, but I feel like the Diablo story arc is so brutal that, like, I think a lot of people that didn't embrace Diablo 3 did solely because, I mean, wait a second, rainbows and ponies and, like there's sort of a vibe there, which to me, it doesn't bother me really, but it's still, yeah, I would love that. I would love for the storyline to be a little bit better. I feel like story is more important than we think in some ways. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that say, well, I don't even play for story, but I mean, Blizzard's got top-notch cutscenes. I feel like Diablo 3 story was kind of lame in comparison to the second one, the Dark, Traveler or Wanderer. I can't remember the exact name, but was just so good, right? And I really hope that we come back to that. The other thing is I hope that we get more, like, I hope they take lessons from some of their competitors. I think that crafting, in a sense, even though this new season does feel like, whoa, some of these crafting sets are really nice, right? But then again, they're really, really, really easy to craft, right? So it's not like this epic quest for you to get the things you need to craft the items. It's just like, hey, I did some bounties, I'm going to craft the pieces, So, like, coming back to a place where you can make a piece that's GG or perfect for your character, and it feels like when you've done so, it's like, wow, dude, like, I spent 100 hours trying to get the very specific little components to come together, and then at the end of the day, maybe that's also tradable, right? Maybe there's like, I somewhat do like that aspect of Path of Exile, even though the implementation over there isn't the best either. But another thing is Paragons. I think Paragons served a perfect purpose for when they were introduced. It was a perfect way to keep people playing, but it quickly became the sole focus. And I think that comes down to the lack of versatility when it comes to crafting and hunting for loot and different, like, yeah, you can go for a primal, and I will acknowledge it's very hard to get a full set of primals, but going from orange to red doesn't have the same feel as getting a dagger of justice and then a sword of demon slaughter, right? They're two different distinct item upgrade paths versus, like, hey, I have a green Chandotos and now I have an orange and now I have a red. They're the same thing. It doesn't have that same feel, So I hope that gearing becomes more the focus than the +5 main stat. And even with Diablo 3 right now, I know we're specifically talking about what we want for Diablo 4, but I'm kind of a proponent for capping Paragons at a certain point. I don't know what the perfect point is, but and then it comes down to more, what you can do with that power that you've farmed, and finding the better upgrades and taking away from that, like, that decision point where, should I be doing speeds right now, or should I do whatever I want to do for my, because 9 times out of 10, if you're a competitive Diablo player right now, it's, I better do speeds. I need Paragons. That's the only way I'm going to get top 10. And that I don't like that that point of the game right now. So I hope that they go away from that and embrace the gearing versus the Paragon stuff.
Yeah. No, I see. This is why I like you so much. This is why, like from the first couple of streams I saw you, I'm like, I get this guy. Like, I don't know if it's like I drank the Kool-Aid or, like, kinship through the interwebs on Twitch, but it's like just basically how you stated how Paragon was good for its intention, and it was. It was desperately needed back in vanilla days, where that was the only way you could really get a substantial magic and gold fight buff, as well as the traditional main stat buff for each Paragon levels you got. But and see, this is where I only differ from a lot of other players, and it's kind of a finite. It's like it's a small point, because it's a halfway bridge, but I firmly believe caps don't matter, because the thing is, it's because, as you stated, for like upgrades, like for gear, I think the reason why gear in Diablo 3 just doesn't have that like full 10 out of 10 satisfaction when you get an upgrade. Like, you can have like your 9 out of 10 moments, like you have like a green you have a regular legendary weapon, and then you get the primal version. Like, that's a big upgrade, especially if all the affixes roll correctly, which is a whole nother issue. But that's a big upgrade. But more or less, what we're doing in Diablo 3 is we're constantly side grading for ourselves. Like if I'm on my wizard and I want to chant Chodo set, I get the regular legendary version, and then I try to get the ancient version, and then I'm trying to get an ever better perfected legendary version. Or if I happen to strike and get lucky with the primal version, if it has the right affixes, then I'm golden. If it doesn't have the right affixes, then yet again I'm wondering, okay, what am I trading off? So it's this constant side grading. And when you take that kind of philosophy and you apply it to Paragon as far as caps are concerned, everyone has to remember, people kind of throw out numbers. Some people throw out 1,000, some people throw out 12, 15, 2, 2,500, 3. But those numbers as caps mean different things to different players.
Mm-hmm.
We can basically be self-assured that everyone who reaches top 1,000 on the leaderboard is at least, at minimum, the top 1% of the people who play season. There has to be at least 100,000 people playing a season per region. So if you reach the leaderboard, you're already the 1%. Congratulations. So when you take this in terms of people who are saying, well, oh, I only got top 50, I'm really not anything, I'm just a casual. No, you may not be playing that much, but you understand your character, you understand the build, you understand at least what you need to do, and you understand map and pylon mechanics for GRs. You can get 50. So when people say like 3,000 and 2,500, they're really coming from a point of they have the time. Because a lot of things in Diablo 3, you can put it with the catch-all of it's a matter of time before you get it. It's a matter of time before you get your upgrades, because the Kanai's Cube, for all the great it did, essentially it's one big giant gear accelerator. The gifts, for better or worse, are gear accelerators. Being able to do Ubers for Hellfire to get that passive, it's not necessarily a gear accelerator, but it gives you access to something you wouldn't normally have had, and that wasn't traditionally in there. So there's this so the whole acceleration is what makes it kind of almost kind of cheapens the game. Like there's a point where you put so much acceleration in a game, like this season, like people were asked, if someone asked me how is this season going, I'm like, well, I played the first 3 days, I liked it for when I played it, I felt like I was playing with cheat codes, because between the theme, between all the buffs to items, like travelers and squirts being the primary two outliners there, along with some of the crafted sets and the way the normal sets are, you kind of feel like you're running around playing cheat codes. And I remember the days of Perfect Dark and GoldenEye. I went around with, all weapons, all ammunition, and yeah, it's fun for the first 15 minutes. And then you get bored. Because you have everything, there's no strategery to it. Thank you, Bush. But yeah, I mean, you just kind of you get bored of it because you're not forced to think about it. And again, kind of bringing the point, this is the exact reason why so many people love Classic, because you're going from a game that has been so, even though I hate the phrase, casualified, and you're bringing it back to a state where you have to work for it. I think Diablo 3 has gotten to a point where, yes, it's fun, yes, there are interesting things to do, yes, they are opening up new things and they're putting more content into it now and in the future, but it is so easy and so accelerated that we have to kind of bring those wheels back, I think, for Diablo 4, and make sure we keep a better set of design principles for Diablo 4 going forward when that gets announced.
So something I just want to quickly toss in here as well is the way that loot works in Diablo seems to have been the bane of the developers of Diablo since the get-go. It was poorly introduced when the game first came out. I mean, I can't tell you how bad it felt, and I know you know this, to get an axe for your barb with intelligence on it. Just so many aspects to hunting loot in Diablo that were just bad, that throughout the years I almost feel like the solution finally came to, like, let's just throw it all in there. Like, let's just give them as much loot as possible. And I really, truly feel like this, like, there's a lot of factors to this, and there's a lot of reasons that this happened over the years. And I feel like the state that we're in now is because of all of those missteps as we went. So taking a really hard look at that gearing philosophy going into Diablo 4, I mean, that has been a blemish on Diablo 3 for forever, right? The way gear worked, just, it's never felt right. And I feel like if they, like, minimally, if that's something that they pin down for the next game, then it's already going to be leaps and bounds better received than Diablo 3 was, right? Like,
wholeheartedly.
It's just something that was a whoopsie in the beginning that's been spiraling and controlling the outcome of the game for its entirety. So, I mean, learning lessons from Diablo 3 and also watching the behaviors of other of their, competitors, I think, like, that's why I have such high hopes for Diablo 4, because, I mean, we've
for sure.
actually personally met a lot of these people, especially last year when I went to BlizzCon, and they're intelligent people that love the game that they work on. And whether or not, I mean, I don't want to get too much into the other things, like if their hands are tied and they can't do as much things as they want because of who knows, right? But what I do know for a fact is that when you talk to them, they love it, right? They want it to be good. So I'm really hoping that like they're paying really close attention to what other developers are doing, and that's one of the main focuses for that game when it comes out. Like, hey, we really fucked up how loot works in D3. Let's fix this and make this good, and I think that alone would make the game a winner, right?
Yeah. Definitely agree there. So transitioning a little bit, focusing more on you now. These lovely questions. What got you into? I'll phrase this: what got you into community work? If it's sorry, sickness, brain delay. If it was separate of Diablo, then what that was, or if it was just Diablo, then just that.
No. So as a matter of fact, when so funnily enough, when I was a teenager, I was a Boy Scout. We did a lot of community style, a lot of community service projects, other things like that. In college, I actually worked for a nonprofit called AmeriCorps. Like, it's a federal organization that does community outreach for students in need. So I ran an after-school program for 4 years, where for the first 2 I was, I was a team member, and then for the last 2 I actually led the team. And so for a couple hours a day, I would spend a portion of my day in between classes in an elementary class helping kids with homework and tutoring, and then after school we would help with homework, do after school activities, play dodgeball, read to them, take them on field trips, and I did that for many years. And then when school got out, I went into the corporate world, which was very, very different. So transitioning into Twitch, which, I mean, isn't that kind of community, but it's still, it's a very, very vibrant community where, it's, you make very, very strong connections with people via, whether you're digital or IRL, they're friends, right? So it's just always felt like a really nice fit, coming from the background that I had. I always loved that kind of work, and it's been, one of my favorite things. And I mean, I honestly, as far as I'm concerned, community is what it's all about, right? I mean, you can't really fly solo and do, I don't know, I feel it's too damn depressing to fly through life solo, right? So community and being part of something is what makes it, makes it worthwhile, right?
Yeah, for sure. And how would you how would you put that frame around Diablo specifically as well?
Well, I mean, I think what helped for me, with that experience from the past and how that would translate to how that helped me as a content creator, community-wise, is, I mean, through many years of teaching, a youth, hey, how do I break down this procedure in such a way that they will understand? And something that I'm notably known for in my YouTube guides, whether it's for D3 or for PoE, is that I'm very, very good at explaining something in a way that people can grasp and utilize to progress their character, right? So I think that was really, really good practice for what I currently do, because whenever I set out to make some form of guide, I say, okay, I don't know anything. Where do I start, and what would be the most logical progression from getting from here to knowing how to do what I'm trying to show you at the end of the video, right? And I think through that work and going through that process for so many years, because I mean, as any of you guys know that have kids, I know, congratulations to you. You have a little one, but soon they'll be going through that process where it's like, you just have to be very, very, if you skip any steps or anything, and I know that there's a lot of people that fall victim to this when you play like I play, like when I was still playing Diablo all the time, you live and breathe it. So there's just an assumption that someone knows that the blacksmith does this, right?
Yeah.
But they don't, so you basically have to take that practice that I learned from that career path from when I was younger and translate it into the way that I make videos and guides for, PoE or D3 or whatever.
Yeah. No, I definitely get you. The kiddo, as I got playing classic Scrooge around the days, the kiddo was 5 months yesterday.
Wow.
So yes.
Damn, fast.
Yeah. Jeez. She's finally beginning to sleep through the night too. It's like we put her down 9:30. She's sleeping. Have the baby monitor. I could finally be playing the games during the week. I know, it's amazing. I know. Anyways, side tangent. We won't go down that way. So the last question for this segment, and I know you've talked a lot about your pre-community work and community work just with Twitch and streaming, as well as, dear God, the Windows bugs has been hitting you and seemed like every streamer hard the last 2 weeks. So with all of that in mind, what would be some of the, like, your top 1 or 2 lessons you've learned over the years doing this thing called Twitch and community work and outreaching and self-marketing, etc., that you feel you would want to pass on to other people potentially listening?
Always be yourself. For me specifically, I know as everybody knows, I don't play Diablo like I used to. And that was a really, really hard decision to make. But one thing that I noticed when we had gotten to that point, because if you remember back to then, and we had still been in the same meta for a full year at that point, which subsequently continued for another 9 to 12, not 12 months, right? Because it just recently changed. I mean, whether you're wearing lawn or you're wearing rat, you're still doing a rat, right? It's the same mechanical play.
Yeah.
I was starting to get whispers, from some of my core community members, like, hey, dude, are you okay? Are you, like, they can tell, right? So when you become a content creator on Twitch, your number one, at least my number one philosophy is always that people that decide to spend their time with me are there because for some reason it either makes them feel good or they enjoy the vibe, and that's what they're looking for. So if I'm in a shitty mood or I hate what I'm doing, then I've effectively failed, right? I am not doing what I should be as a content creator in creating a safe space for everyone to come and not have to deal with the emotional and crazy drama that they deal with outside of Twitch. So like when I made the decision to try and play Path of Exile for a while, I was to the point where I was so burnt out with the current game I was playing that it was reflecting to the point where it was visible, and ultimately it was a you know, I think it was a good decision, but at the same time, I mean, it's also been very, very hard. I'm really glad to see that Diablo is starting to add and incorporate some mechanical changes, new sets. These are things that now I want to play the game some more, right? I want to come back over there and play. But also, I made that decision in the beginning because I had to stay true to the mindset I had when I quit my job to do this, and that is, I'm not happy doing what I'm doing right now, so something needs to change.
Yeah.
And that's why I made that, you know, somewhat drastic change. And you know, it's very, very hard to do, especially for a streamer of my size. I mean, if you have thousands and thousands of viewers, it's not going to be as crazy. But you know, for someone like me, that can be the difference between being able to do this full time and not, right? So
Yeah.
but I live in the space of things are about the leap of faith. I mean, if I assume you know why I do, or why I became a streamer, but my wife has a terminal illness. She got that right near when we got together, and um, when you start hating what you do, and you also start dealing with the thought of mortality, you really, you know, think about how you spend your time when you realize that time isn't infinite, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I quit my job to do this. And when I got to the point in this where I knew I wasn't going to provide or achieve my goal of creating a space that was fun, I, you know, made a decision to make a change. And I think it was the right one ultimately, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I feel that's what a lot of the people I talk to, they echo the same thing. Like, you just have to be yourself. And when you're the
Mhm.
person doing the streaming, you may not necessarily, you can't see yourself throughout your 4, 6, 8 hour play session because, well, you're playing the game, you're watching chat, you're calling out subs. It
Mhm.
can be brutal sometimes, like, just like watching streamers like handle it, but just handling it all, like, yeah, like, if you're not liking what you're playing, that's why whenever I've thought about, like, should I stream even like once a week or twice, I'm like, no, because I don't talk that much. I don't really, like, I just want to play the game, and I understand that's just me. But that's also what you said, is like, you have to be yourself. And if I'm just gonna be myself, where I'm not gonna have a webcam and I'm not gonna really talk to the chat because I can't really keep up with it, it's like, then I acknowledge, and that's just who I am. But for
Mhm.
everyone else that's in there doing the thing, I mean, with our community, I mean, I started watching. I mean, I really think Leviathan was the one who got me to watch Twitch consistently, because he's always a great
Mhm.
to watch whenever he's on. And then
Yeah.
Nine Ball when he was going, and then from him, you know, when the host came out, you know, found yourself, found Riker, found Big Daddy, and then through them, they're radioed out to other people, and it's it really is a joy just to watch any of you, uh, just in general, despite whatever game is being played, because I think for I say for better or worse, not as like a backhanded compliment, but just, you know, because everyone's different, everyone has their own way of doing things. Everyone seems to be genuinely themselves, because
Mhm.
I've been in this, I say this game, quote unquote, as far as community work for Diablo 3 for 7 years, basically before the game was even released. Like,
Mhm.
and I've had the pleasure of meeting almost all the past community people for from Blizzard side, a lot of developers from Blizzard side. I've also had the pleasure of meeting a lot of the community at BlizzCon, you know, meet them in person. And whereas in maybe in the beginning with Vanilla, with a few of the top end streamers there, where there was, you know, some public face and then some side face action going on, The community now, like if you see Big Daddy Dan on a stream and you see him in person, he is that guy. He is that lovable ball of fat man army. He is that kind of guy. Like you are exactly the same. Leviathan is exactly the same. Riker is exactly the same. He may be a little bit shorter in real life. Sorry to disappoint you.
That was gonna say, I didn't know if I should say anything. That was the first thing I was like, oh my god, I didn't know he was so short.
Yeah, but like everyone is who they are, and that's something I have been genuinely happy for with our community, because there's no back-ended bitchiness, there's no back-ended like drama, there's no like, did you hear what so and so said in their stream about this guy? Hush tones clips and everything. Like no, like everyone pretty much does what they do. Everyone pretty much is themselves, and again, I know we're harping on, but it's like, I feel that's the best advice, because if you're not being yourself, then like you're being kind of disingenuous in everything else, because it kind of it radiates and the tendrils get into it, and then you're kind of affecting everything else. So now that we've gone there, we've finished the first segment, we are now going to hop into the next one.
7 deadly sins.
Alrighty. So, in this section, as I go to the monitor to get to these fanciful questions for you, the 7 deadly sins. So, rapid fire questions. These are questions meant to daze and confuse you, not knock you off your chair, but answer them relatively quickly, and I hope you have fun, because I know I will. Question number 1. What's been your best American Picker moment going to yard sales?
My best American Picker moment going to yard sales would have to be... Oh my goodness. Honestly, I think like the Game Boy grab was my favorite. I know that seems not the greatest, but I also found some like 1940s speakers that were in perfect condition, which I was shocked about.
Oh, that's cool. One thing from PoE you would like to be brought over to Diablo?
One thing from PoE brought over to Diablo. A very menacing endgame boss, and also a more meaningful leveling process. Not a GR boss that's really hard because it's GR 110. More like a boss that's just always hard. You know what I'm saying?
Ladies.
Like an Uber elder.
Yeah. Question number 3. The lady gets to take away one of your foods forever. What is it?
Oh, God. So it has to be a food that I like.
Well, it kind of bypasses the whole question if it isn't.
I was going to say lima beans, but no, I'm joking. Oh, God. It would have to be pizza, I guess. I know that's a weird one, but if I say burritos, I'd have to kill myself, so it's got to be
That's
pizza.
your whole stream. All right, next question. You have to go all Tenacious D to save your soul. What song are you rocking out to?
Sasquatch.
The lady gets to replace one of your foods forever. The headline is with her version of it. What is it?
Can I use the same? No, it's because she just showed me this vegan pizza she made the other day, and I legit couldn't tell the difference. I know that sounds like madness. Somebody's gonna be like, "Oh my god, he's a pod person." No, let's not use that.
He's crossed over to the dark side. Cauliflower crust pizza.
So she has found a way with this very specific vegan sausage to make Italian sausage subs, and they're like, I don't even want the regular ones anymore. They're that good.
That's good. All right. Now, as in tradition for the 6-slot question, Diablo 4 is announced, and it is glorious. How many times do you know you're going to have to go, quote, dude, come on, it looks good, stop hating, end quote?
1 million. The internet is haters right now. I don't know why. I wish it wasn't the case, but I swear, even when people have a win, they can't acknowledge it. Like Season 18. Season 18's mechanic is cool. Diablo is making the right moves. Yet there's still like this weird, oh my god, and that's all it is. No, it's good. It's fine. They're doing things. Awesome. This is what I want. This is what a lot of us want. They're doing it, you know?
All right.
So.
And to round it out, why blood shards?
Because of Kadala. Short answer there. I mean, blood shards are, you know, as we all know, we give to the most evil boss in Diablo 3. And shards are the combination of shit and farting. And I am Dropaduski, so blood shards it is. And then, you know, after somebody suggested that, because I let Twitch, a lot of the things on my stream are driven by chat. Somebody had decided on that, they voted on it that day, and it became the thing. And then, you know, in hindsight, it's like, that is really disgusting. But hey, man, you know, what are you gonna do?
Someone asks you, like, what is that even? And then you go, why are you thinking about it? You're only going to make it worse for yourself. And then the person kind of like goes like, ugh. Anyways, thank you for going along with me on this venture through the 7 Deadly Sins.
Hear ye, hear ye.
Of course.
Read all about it. The burning times.
And with that, we have arrived at the last segment of the show. And this is where I let the guest, if he or she likes to bring up a topic that is near and dear to their heart, feels needs extra exposure, feels they just need to pound the desk and beat some sense into some of you or me or even themselves. Who knows? I give them the floor. If not, I have a topic waiting in the wings to kind of cover up for that. But was there a topic that you felt that you believed needs more discussion or thought on?
I guess I do want your topic because I don't have a ton here, but one thing I at least want to throw out into the air, or maybe I don't know exactly how to put this, but I do wonder. I really wish we understood why the pacing is what it is when it comes to D3 and in Blizzard development. It seems like now that we've been kind of paying more attention to how other companies are pushing out content in the way that they are, like, I just wish there was more insight. Like, I really like the progress that they've been making thus far in regards to, hey, yes, we're working on things. Yes, they're giving us a little bit more sneak peeks, but there's no general timelines, and everything seems to move just slow as molasses. And I understand that quality takes time, but to the same degree, I mean, we're seeing, you know, some other game developers push out content very fast, and it's really good. So I don't know. I feel like I love that we're getting more insight, but I think we don't live in the days where things being hidden and these weird secret reveal things. I mean, yeah, they do serve a purpose, but it's not the same as it was in 1996, right? It's not. We're getting it from the Game Informer. The most successful companies that we're seeing these days are the ones that are very, very, very clear with everyone. And even if they came out and said like, hey, we've told you guys are getting new sets, but that's going to be over a 2-year process, and you're only going to see one set every other season, I think people would be stoked to hear that news rather than not hear it. And those in-between seasons, like, I guess we're not going to get one this time. Like, eliminate the disappointment points for the people that are playing the game, and even the disappointment of having to wait longer, but knowing why is much more diminished, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree there, but I don't know if that's like a pressing, burning topic that needs to be discussed, but I do feel like this transparency thing is getting better, but there's still a lot of room there that you can. I mean, I have been playing PoE, as you guys know well, and I mean, God, they do an announcement to let you know that another announcement is coming. I mean, they tell you that much information, and it's really, really nice. People just feel like they're more a part of the process. And for games specifically like these, like action RPGs, where you live and breathe them, I mean, that's your world. I mean, look, here you are 7 years in, we're doing a podcast based around this franchise. I mean I quit my job and made it my career. Like people love this. And I mean, that's like if your brother calls and says, hey, how did everything turn out? And you're like, bro, I can't let you know yet, dude. I'm sorry, call me in a couple weeks. No, it doesn't work that way. Like we're, they've always advertised themselves as a family, and so let's just get more communication. I think that's all that it takes. Even if it takes longer, like, who cares? We want to know, right? We just want to know. I think that would eliminate a lot of the headaches and concerns and anger and all this other garbage that you hear on the internet, because the forums get nasty when something goes by and they thought something was going to happen and it didn't, and there was no real explanation other than just trust us. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I guess to kind of give a short and condensed version, I mean, when you think about just Diablo 3's development in a nutshell, it was restarted at least twice prior to us seeing it. Maybe even 3 times, depending on your viewpoint on the story. So so starting over here, restart 1, 2, 3, and then I remember in the beta, almost every major system was redone at least once or twice. The attribute system was done at least twice. The rune system was one way, and then it became the inscription system that was currently in BC WoW. And then he kind of said, okay, that's an easy enough kind of implement idea to kind of bring it over for the skill runes. And unfortunately, a lot of game just kind of got stripped out because even though it sounds silly, the game was also announced 4 years before it was released. So even with that 4 years, the game still wasn't ready. And when you think about that, kind of pause, think about that. We started 3 times. Systems were being done around. They had bigger plans, but they had to pull back. And 4 years in the open public eye, as far as development was concerned, it was probably the biggest form of developer hell ever. And when you carry on, okay, what about, and you put that in a first box, and the second box you kind of look at Rebirthed Souls. Rebirthed Souls was kind of the changing of the guard, like reestablishing the franchise. But then if you take any stock in the article from Kotaku last year that talked about all the things about the second expansion, how the second expansion was supposed to come after Rebirthed Souls was already in the works when Rebirthed Souls was just about ready to come out, but the higher ups axed it before they could ever really do anything, which is where a lot of us believe things like Kanai's Cube came from and the sets came from. Some even believe the Necromancer came from, and all the Druid hints were coming from. Mm-hmm. When you take that and you say, okay, there was a second expansion, but higher execs didn't have faith in the franchise, and they said, okay, let's work on the next iteration. And then, so now we're in the third box on this long thought train of Hades, the new third-person view that they were going to try to get on, I guess, to try to make Diablo hip in the new thing. And then that got canned, and then they started the traditional ISO because I guess people felt like this isn't what Diablo is. It's the isometric action RPG. Let's just make it what it is, just make it good. So that's the third box. So when you take all these boxes, the game has never had a settled development schedule, period. Ever. I mean, if they weren't developing the game that we were playing, they were busy fixing it. So it's so that's why the franchise from Diablo 3 to now after the Necromancer has always felt very volatile and very very neither here nor there on what we were getting, because it's either this constant game of catch up, this constant game of fixing what was done in the past to make the game playable. And two things I could point out that are, I don't want to say objectively true, but when you think about them, make a whole lot of sense to why this is because the game is balanced by item. It's not balanced by class. It's balanced by the sets and the legendary powers. And the reason why you know this is, when was the last time class abilities, not items, class abilities were actually tweaked? And not just in a nerf sort of manner, because the last time the class abilities were changed or passives was for the health globe nerf, when necros were really overpowered, and we see how little that did. And it basically affected the witch doctor, not really the necro. And then the time before that was a CC nerf across the board, which again affected the witch doctor and not really anybody else. You have to go back three major class revision patches, which is years ago. You're probably talking 4 or 5 years ago, the last time there was a major class ability rebalance. And I think that's why we are where we are. And along with the last principle of not nerfing anything, just buffing everything else. I think those are the three signs that the development has been so fraught that it's just easier to do these principles. And I don't fault the development team at all for doing these, because you have to do what you have to do. And if this is the easier way, or more importantly, the more stable way of doing it as far as your engine, because you have to remember, the engine, even though they went through the 64-bit client revision, the game itself is 7+ years old. It went through probably 5 years of development before that. So we're working with an engine that's anywhere between 10 and 12 years old. That's like grandpa age.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the Diablo 4 is just gonna be better right off the bat because of the engine, not the graphics, not the story or the gear, just because of the engine itself and what they're gonna be able to do with it. So I think, even though I went a little bit long and drawn out, when you think about those three compartments and you think about those three principles of how they're balancing the game, the game's just never been stable. And that's probably the thing they have to nail down the hardest with Diablo 4. Just make sure everything is stable core-wise. And then they're not busy backtracking every patch, fixing and iterating and adding new things.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no way to peer into this, like, at least from my perspective. I mean, we all, it's just it's all the chatter, and it's all it's always guessing on our side. So I guess to circle back around to what I originally was saying there, is just like, even with all of that confusion and everything, I still feel like they could, I think we'd be okay hearing like, hey dude, we've had this misstep, we had like, I really feel like going forward, that communication thing is just going to be so immensely huge for morale, because morale is really what it comes right down to. Especially like when you're in a year of, I guess it just really depends too on how you play the game, right? Some of us play it like, when you're pushing, like you had said, that 1% is the top 1,000, and then when you're in that space where, Levi, I know, goes heavily for it. I do. A lot of people in that area where you're trying to push like the top of the non-botted area of the, of the leaderboard. It can be like when you're doing paragons, especially, from Levi's standpoint, from SSF. I don't know. It's just, it can be so much time you spend there. So every little modicum of news, whether it's whether it's even good or not. It's just a little like, hey, it's just a little tap on the shoulder from your buddy, like, hey, we're still here. We just want you to know the shit's working, right? We're coming. We got you, and I think that would be huge, immense. And they're getting better. I want to preface that with, it is getting better.
Oh yeah,
They're doing
for
a
sure.
much better job than they were. I think it just, if it continues to progress, it's going to get even better as we go.
Yeah. Hopefully that's the thing. And even though this could be a whole topic of itself, but we're not going to get into it. Hopefully our dear friend, overworked Death Maiden, gets some more friends to help her out too. But that's a whole nother discussion for another time. So with that, is there anything else you want to discuss, or you ready to get this thing put in the can?
I think that's everything. I do want to say thank you again for having me in here. And one thing I want to throw out too is that, I've been away from, outside of now coming back into Diablo, and just to let everyone know here, I am starting a new schedule. I'm going to be doing Classic in the mornings, PoE in the afternoons, but I do want to dedicate at least one day a week to D3. I want to be over there. I want to play the game. It may be SSF, it may be something, but I want to be a part of the community as it's now making, as the developers are now showing us that things are happening, things are coming, and that progress is being made. And I just want to, thank you for having me on here, and thank everybody that's still, there's still a lot of people that don't play PoE or Classic, only play Diablo, but they still support me. They still come by. They still say hello. They still, the Diablo community has always been very, very, caring. It's always been very tight. Whether you're playing Diablo or not, you truly do become friends with people. And I just want to say that even though I hadn't played for a long time, I really do appreciate that. And I really do feel like when I started season 18, I had a lot of people in stream, and it felt like I hadn't been gone at all. It was just like, hey dude, welcome back. Fuck yeah, let's listen to some metal and push some GRs, and so I just wanted to thank everybody, and thank everybody that's continued to support me over the last couple of years, and to let everybody know that I still love Diablo. It's always been and probably will always be my favorite franchise of all time. And I plan on not only playing D3, but of course playing subsequent games outside of cell phone things. But I'll probably even still try that off stream, but I don't know. Let's not open that can of worms.
Put it back in. All right. So let's get on with the outro. Where can people find you? Projects, places, all the things. Go.
So obviously twitch.tv/Dropaduski, also YouTube, Twitter. If you guys aren't on my Twitter, definitely jump over there. I throw up just updates to the channel and random stuff. And I also do another podcast called Behind the Streams with Gazzy TV and Catmaster OP, two primary PoE streamers, but it's not about PoE, it's about streaming. And if you're trying to become a streamer, everything down to how you actually make money as a streamer, what things you go through, networking, marketing, overlays, technical stuff, all of those things. So if you haven't checked those out, definitely do so. We're going to have those actually uploaded on the iTunes and everything soon. And we've had a couple of guests. We had Quinn69 on there. We had a bunch of folks from PoE. We had Lord Fluffy on there. So I'll get a link. I'll send a link your way so you can throw it in if you're cool with that. And then
sure. Show notes are wonderful.
Everybody, the projects are continuing, and we're moving onward, because I bet we're a couple of years from D4, but I want to live and breathe that for a decade, hopefully too. So
yeah, it's like we made it this far with Diablo 3, right?
Right.
Yeah. Alrighty. So with that, if you would like to visit the show's webpage, that would be scytheandshield.com. If you would like to send email to the show, that would be scytheandshield@gmail.com. If you would like to follow the show on Twitter, that would be at Scythe and Shield. If you would like to listen to the show, you can go to the webpage and go to the show's YouTube video, where you will see my lovely face along with the even more popular guest faces on the YouTube page, as well as for your listening pleasure on Apple, Google, and Spotify. And most importantly, if you want to suggest a guest for a future episode, because as much as I know people in the community, I do not know everybody. You can join the Discord, suggest future guests, and also suggest future questions for those guests, because I try to get a tweet or two out there about a week before the guest is interviewed, so you have plenty of time to suggest questions for them. And if you have one and I ask it to them, I will shout you out. Other than that, leave those 5-star reviews, smash that like button where it is, hit that subscribe button wherever you find it, bring it back, yeah? And remember, my friends, keep hacking and slashing. Have a good evening.